Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Wednesday. It's our first episode on a Wednesday. And we did an episode last week for our last Friday episode, myself and Steph Sabra, where we went through heroes and villains. We thought it was going to be one episode, but we started going through like, oh, you know what? We could probably do two parts of this. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're going to do part two. It's heroes and villains. If you didn't have an opportunity yet, please subscribe to us on podcast feed, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. The link's in the description. You can now rate on Spotify, which is awesome. But we're going to get into it. It's heroes and villains. It's Star Wars world. It's me. It's Steph Sabra. It's Sith Council. Let's do it.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
It's been a day, guys. It's been a day. So what's that logo? Well, I deleted everything off my damn screen, and the actual logo of what was supposed to be there is not. It's been glitching all day. This is the fourth attempt at doing this show today. We're going to get through it. So if you're listening on audio, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And if you're watching, you just got a commercial for Big Thing. Congratulations to you. All right, we have a lot to talk about. Let's get into this. I'm here with Steph. Hello, Steph.
Hi.
Nice to see you for a fourth time.
It's Groundhog Day.
It is.
I just checked if it was Friday the 13th.
It might as well be at this
not.
point.
It's Wednesday.
Thank you for everybody who joined us. If you're able to subscribe to the channel, please do so if you haven't done already. If you have subscribed and you haven't hit notifications, do that. As I mentioned at the top, we're going to be doing Boba Fett, but we're going to be doing on Wednesday because that's when the show comes out. So Steph and Mike won't be on for the first one for that, but they will be for the second episode. I'll be doing the first one by myself because of the holidays, obviously. Okay, let's get right into it. We left off, it was either Wicked or whoever the hell it was, right? But now we get into let's do another villain. And I think we start off this time, we'll do Count Dooku. Mm-hmm. So Count Dooku, besides his name being Count Dooku, didn't really have the development of a character, and Clone Wars he did, and if you watch Clone Wars, I think he gets significantly better. But the problem was in Attack of the Clones, he's great. They set him up as this rogue Jedi that you start to learn a little bit more about the Sith and all this, and then he just craps out in the beginning of the third one.
Just decapitated.
Yeah.
I loved him in the second one. He was the highlight for me. I loved Yoda and him going head to head. And I think that he exposed a lot of the issues with the Jedi that I think a lot of people would agree with. And then the next movie, he's just gone.
He's just gone, and he's set up for Palpatine to use, which is fine, but they don't explain it enough. It's just kind of, he's like, oh, I'm about to die, and no one else is going to kind of know. Oh, because he does. And this is why I think that Attack of the Clones, people couldn't believe that I had it higher than a couple other movies in the list. One of the reasons why is even when the Sith are always manipulating, and the Sith are always trying to best each other, right? One to have the power, one to crave it. And so when Count Dooku says to Obi-Wan, he tells him the whole plot. He goes, what if I told you this whole thing has been led by an evil Sith Lord? He's like, you're lying. He's like, no, I'm telling you the truth. And he was. And that's the manipulation of the Sith, and I love that element to him. But then he, like Darth Maul before him, although he's got a little bit more screen time than Darth Maul, he's gone before you really can develop him. And like to have if you would have been able to do Darth Maul, Dooku, and Palpatine, and like really develop them through three movies together, like this Sith kind of trio that didn't really know. And again, one to crave the power, the other one doesn't know. Wait, why are there three when it's supposed to be a rule of two? But either way, they are developed thoroughly in the Clone Wars series.
Yeah, I know, and good thing that they did, because it's true. If the prequels had focused on their villains and developing them more, it would have been arguably another one of the greatest trilogies of all time. But because the villains are so sick, like people love Count Dooku, people love Maul.
They're just not developed enough. That's it. All right, now moving on to another hero, the Maz Kanata. Maz Kanata is another one. Lupita Nyong'o, great actress, was very excited when she was cast. In our previous episode, we said, everybody was wondering if she was going to be Asajj Ventress before they knew the fate of what happened to Asajj Ventress, but hoping that she was going to be something. And this character was set of this woman who's been running this cantina for like 1,000 years. Great relationship with Han, understanding of it. I love what her purpose is. In the novel, she has more to do, and I think she's force sensitive. We never get the story of how she found Luke's saber. A story for another time. We just still haven't had that time. Last Jedi, she's completely ruined and used in a stupid video game type way. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And don't even
so
put her in
there.
Why is she making a phone call if she's in the middle of a battle?
No.
Silly.
Just don't put her in the movie then. It's fine.
No, and you could have been anybody saying you got to find the guy with the plume. Anybody could have told you that. We need Maz Kanata in it. Why? Because we have Lupita on contract.
Then you should have known. Don't find someone with a plume. Delete this entire mission.
And then the third one, she's also just there basically to deliver anything that they were unfortunately not able to convey through Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
So the character is wasted.
Yep.
And that's my problem with a lot of the new trilogy in general is there are just not a lot of characters that they were set up really well.
Through, yeah.
It's not done very well. And she's unfortunately one of those. I like her though, and maybe it's very similar to what we were just saying with Dooku. Maybe there's some kind of series that will come out that she'll be able to do more stuff and because it's very possible that the beauty of television inside of Star Wars is that, oh, you know what? I didn't like this particular character as much as I thought I didn't like the character in the movies, but then in the TV show, they really used him in a different way. And I think Maz Kanata could be one of those people.
Totally. Yeah. Even when Mandalorian, obviously we hadn't been introduced to his character, but I was like, why do I care about that? Like, right. But there's so much room for making that happen.
All right, the next character on the list is one of my favorite all-time villains, and that's Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn. This is definitely the Chrome though. Do you have it up, by the way?
I have the heroes, not the villains.
Villains is the I think it's a Screen Rant list. It just says power villains of all time. So I'm gonna shut this down because I'm pretty sure it's Chrome that's been messing us up today. So I just shut down Chrome and hopefully that helps us because it seems to be what has been the big mess up. So let's do All right. So it looks like it's helping a little bit. So I'm just shutting down Chrome, and then we'll have to work through Steph's list. So Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yep.
Now, Thrawn is a very interesting character all the way around, not just the actual character himself and what he's done, how detailed he is, and his detail to art and culture, and how sophisticated he is in the unknown. His race of the I would say the Zis, whatever it is, and people are gonna.
Sorry,
don't ever.
He's blue with red
It's
eyes.
the Thriss or the Zis, whatever the hell it is. People are screaming at me. But he comes from this race of people and his the comic book that they had on him, the novel, the canon stuff I'm talking about, just all that how he gets connected to this universe in general and how he's able to start working for the Empire.
Yeah.
But where he first came in the non-canon was through the Timothy Zahn books right after Return of the Jedi. And it was, people don't remember, you certainly don't because I don't think you were alive yet, but when the novels came out, they were the sequels and they were the next thing to Return of the Jedi. So people did not have Star Wars. So what they had were these books. And the idea of everything. So in that timeline, do you know enough about that timeline?
Yeah, a little bit.
So right after Return of the Jedi, I think it may be a couple of years, maybe 5 years. I don't know. No more than that. So what's happened in that time period is that Emperor's dead, all this stuff, and then Thrawn was off fighting another mission in like outer regions, whatever, and he comes back, and the Empire is in disarray. And he pretty much just takes over everything. So now he's the one they're battling, and there's stuff going on with Mara Jade, and there's a lot. But when they had to make when they wanted to make him canon, because of the timeline stuff and where they needed to put it, they changed that and they kind of put him inside of Rebels, so the Emperor is still alive at this point, and all of that, and you kind of see him get a little bit more involved in it in the timeline, and then Timothy Zahn comes back, does a whole set of new novels that fits into it. The only thing that I had a problem with, but I'm over it, is that if you read the novel or you listen to the audiobook, Thrawn is significantly different and less of a full pure villain. In Rebels, he's a pure villain.
Yep.
And he's a little bit more of a, like, you understand more his reasoning. There's
like a Thanos type?
Kind of, but different, where there's just things that he's got to do. I don't want to say he's got a heart, but he's got more motivation for things. He does certain things the way there's certain things he's not as selfish. I don't know. It seemed different from the novel to the actual series. But I wonder how they portray him in the Ahsoka series.
I know, that's what I'm looking because I only know Thrawn really from Rebels,
yeah.
and I love Thrawn. I think he's so
great.
sick and just like good at a lot of things,
Yeah.
and tactical and respected, which like I like a respected villain, which is why we like Vader and Palpatine
Yes.
and not like Hux.
Yeah.
Because he's scary. So I think that I'm really excited to see what he looks like in live action too.
Yeah, 100%. So, all right, well, who's next on our heroes list? Last was Maz Kanata, so now we're going to move over, and we got
Next on our
Steph's now navigating through the phone because the system has been screwing us up here today. But
it is
who we got?
well, there's Porg. Do you want to go?
Porg?
Yeah.
No, we can get rid of Porg. They ranked a Porg as one of the best heroes?
Yes.
Who made this list? How do we fire them?
22. Cassian Andor.
All right, Cassian Andor. They put a Porg on the list?
Yes.
What the hell's wrong with people?
Oh my god. A Porg? That's on the cute list, yo.
The Porg needs to go on my dinner table in the next butcher box.
Oh my gosh.
Porg.
Oh, they before Porg, they did have the crew from Rogue One, so Bodhi, Boz, and Chirrut.
Good heroes.
Yeah,
Chirrut.
Chirrut.
Anyway, so all of those guys together, that's a great squad.
Yep.
Bodhi is someone I don't think is talked about enough. We can throw Andor in there also. You know, this whole crew, and then you of course have Urso, Jyn Urso. The whole squad from Rogue One. To me, that is the best Disney era Star Wars movie out of all of them right now. And I think it is also because of the way that they all work together, the stuff that they do, the understanding. I never really got when people are like, oh, there's not a lot of development in those characters. There's a lot of development, and you understand why Jyn Erso is the way she is, and the understanding of not really knowing who her dad was.
Yeah.
It's a great scene with her in Rogue One when she just kind of breaks down and she has this hard edge about her the whole time, but then she gets this message from her dad, and she just kind of breaks down. She can't let him go.
Oh,
and says
so
this message.
good.
It's great. And then Andor, who is just kills a guy in cold blood, and the guy wasn't a bad dude. This is who he does. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out in the Andor series.
Yeah, because we see him before he turned fully, like got more
of a heart.
cognizant. Yeah.
And he doesn't. He feels like I think that he's just kind of going through the motions by the time we meet him, and he finds that I think Jyn gives him more of a purpose because he's able to understand a little bit more. And I think that's what we're going to see in the movie itself. But Bodhi, and then you get that whole crew involved, the way that they play off of each other makes it work. And you know that, and when they all die, and we got to put K2SO in there too.
Yep.
When they all die, each one of you're connected to all of it, and you care. It's not like, oh, who was that person?
No,
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
all of these characters. For people who say that, I don't really understand because I was really connected to them.
Yeah.
And they're so Star Wars to me. It's everyday people who just made decisions to, at the end of the day, be the hero.
Right.
And also, none of these people had, they didn't have Obi-Wans in their life.
Right.
They didn't have Yodas in their life. So it makes sense that they wouldn't be making the perfect decisions until they met each other and kind of saw the picture clearer.
100%. So I think that whole crew from Rogue One works really well. There's some really good heroes in there. Very curious to see how they portray Andor, what other heroes and villains they will have inside of it. All right, let's go back to a villain now.
We're at Grand Moff Tarkin.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I always love when he shows up again, played by the great Peter Cushing, who probably very similar to Alec Guinness, had no idea what the hell movie he was making when he made it, but he brought such a power to the role. And in the first movie, in New Hope, he was the villain. He was the guy. We didn't see the Emperor. Vader worked for him. And I liked in the Tarkin novel, which I believe was James Luceno. I think I incorrectly said that James Luceno's first book was Catalyst, because I'm pretty sure it was Tarkin. But either way, Tarkin, you understand what Tarkin knows that Vader is Anakin. He knows. He was around it, but there's a respect that they have for each other, and there's respect that Vader has for Tarkin, and you see that in New Hope, obviously, and it carries over to other things, and then he plays very well in Rogue One, even though I think, you say what you will about the time, they were making a move on the de-aging stuff. I still thought that it was a good move to have him, but he also is voiced by Stephen Stanton in both the Clone Wars and in the Rebels series, brilliantly, by the way. Love Stephen Stanton, very talented dude. And Tarkin is just a guy that is continuously a threat. And I think, do you think we see him in Andor?
Yeah, I think
so?
Definitely
With more deep fake.
Yeah, I think so. Because they've brought on the new guy from YouTube. I think you can't help but to think in Rogue One that scene could have been so much better if it was just that technology or less straight up face shots. I think there's ways to play around with it, but I think so because Tarkin is, to me, like a masterclass villain. To me, he's scarier than Palpatine in the way he moves and like the way, obviously not with his ability, but for him to have no force ability and to have that much like power amongst people, he's so sick. Also, best cheekbones in the villain game ever.
He's great, and he's also good in that Lost Stars novel that I keep telling you about.
Yeah,
he's good
I
in that. But he's a great villain, and obviously the great Peter Cushing made that villain so much more memorable.
Unbelievable.
All right, who's our hero? Who's our next hero in the next? I'm gonna go ahead and say it's one of the big ones, but we'll see. I bet you it's Lando.
Oh yeah, I think it's Finn.
Finn?
Yep.
Is that who is Finn?
Yep.
Well, we know that Finn. We've talked about Finn at great length.
Because I think this came out before the Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, did it? This list?
Like, this was right after Force Awakens.
Yeah. So the same. The John Boyega, another one, great actor, so talented, but also so locked into Star Wars when he joined, and just a character that they didn't know where or what to do with him. And in the first one, he's got a good arc. Here's the stormtrooper that for some reason wakes up. There was an awakening, which we thought, okay, well, this could be him. He popped out of this thing, and then
still could have.
They still could have done it the right way. And then Last Jedi, he's completely just diminished and pushed back into the same role that he had in the beginning of Force Awakens, which made no sense at all. And then they don't even know what the hell to do with him in Rise of Skywalker. They're like, oh, now we're going to give him Force sensitive powers, and he kind of tells Rey, he's going to tell her, but he never really tells her, and he doesn't know what to do. And if you Duel of the Fates, to me, has the best arc for him.
Yeah.
Because everything that led up from both the first movie, even Last Jedi, then comes to this ending of storming the Capitol in Coruscant, what he's got to do with Rose, making that whole thing with Rose work. So it's nothing against Boyega himself. I'm sure, I bet you if Boyega could be candid, and he would probably say, yeah, I would have much rather had closed out the way that I kind of hoped it would do.
100%.
Because they played off of that whole reason of the stormtrooper getting captured and all that as children and all that was just basically ignored.
Yeah. It's so sick to have a stormtrooper that can be like brought to awareness on his own decision and then join the rebellion.
And you see other people doing it.
Yeah, and the way they set it up, even with like the first Force Awakens makes sense. Like he was gonna leave them. He wasn't sure. He wasn't about the rebellion yet, and then he was.
Right.
So then you keep him, but he was gonna defect again. But anyways, I love this character regardless. He's like the perfect
great
humor.
yeller.
Yeah, great
yeller.
One of the greatest yellers ever.
Yeah, I'm sure
the power behind that.
Really, so much, and I hope that he wasn't sullied from everything the kind of crap that he got.
I know
overall, and I would like to see Finn return somehow because at least they set up an idea that he is
Force sensitive.
Yeah, and that if there's something down the line, because in the Duel of Fates, Rey does open up and start training the next phase of Jedi. And if he becomes, and I know that's not the same, but if they did something down the line where there's a Disney Plus series 5 or 10 years later, right now, if I was them, now I don't want anything to do with it. But hey, who knew Willem Dafoe was going to come back to Spider-Man, right? Who knew that was going to happen? Who knew all these things were going to happen? So maybe they come back, and then in 5 or 10 years, there's some Disney Plus series, and you get more of a development. Because look at Obi-Wan, right? Obi-Wan by Ewan McGregor, arguably the best thing in all the prequels as far as acting. And he always wanted to get a little bit more chance to have a depth to the character. And now he's got that opportunity to do what? 15 years later or whatever the hell
we have no idea. I think for Daisy Ridley and for John Boyega, Oscar Isaac's already doing it. They're just, and John Boyega more than Daisy Ridley, just booking outside roles, getting their name known outside of Star Wars. And then I do think that there's a chance that they would come back if the story was right.
If the story was right. And I would much prefer to see them all get a chance to shine. Look at Hawkeye. Hawkeye was in what? How many movies was he in?
Like
8, 10, whatever he was in. And within 6 episodes of this TV show, or whatever, 5 or 6, he's way more developed and has so much more to do in 5 episodes of television than he did in that entire series of movies.
I'm sure there's a group of people that didn't know Hawkeye was in the Avengers.
But I mean, but he was just kind of, he was there, and he was always kind of not that it's Jeremy Renner, but because he never had superpowers, he was kind of like the butt of the joke and never really had a time to shine. And now he does, and that's kind of the example of why I think if Finn had something to do later on down in a TV series, it's just a matter of whether or not John Boyega wants to do that in his career. All right, moving on to, now we're getting to villains, right?
Yep. We're up with Maul.
Darth Maul. Okay, so here's a character that really was able, hit the ground running when he appeared. Like the double-bladed lightsaber, the martial arts, the idea of this, who is this Zabrak who is just an absolute psycho and doesn't have to say much, doesn't say like, this is my apprentice. Yeah. He will find your
respects no one.
No,
wants to just
except Palpatine.
Kill, except for Palpatine, and he just wants to fight.
Yeah, and he also gives that whole thing. He's got a mission. He's like, at last we'll be able to reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, after all this time, like he's the apprentice, and then he gets cut in half. And you're like, that's it? He's done? And then I remember telling people, well, Maul's back, and people go, because of the Clone Wars, like, how is Maul back? And the way that they did that, and the way that he was infused himself, because he's such a hateful character. Yeah. Oh my God. Even because he's not, and everything that happens to him in the Clone Wars. The stuff with the witches, but the stuff with his brother, and then the idea of Palpatine, who basically just like, you're damaged goods, man. He's like, you're not Sith anymore. I get lost. And he's just like, what? And then Palpatine kills his brother. Palpatine bests him, and then he's got to go. And the whole thing with the Mandalorians, he has so much depth to him. Yeah. In Clone Wars alone. And then you go to Rebels. This is why everybody's saying, like, oh, he's got to be in the Obi-Wan series. No, he cannot be in the Obi-Wan series. It would be such a... And there's no way that Filoni's going to do that, because what happens to... His whole mission is he wants to hunt down. He hates. That's what he does. He hates. And he hates Obi-Wan. And he's got to find a way to get to Obi-Wan. And he finally finds a way to do it. He finally tracks him down through Ezra. And then I remember when that whole episode happened in Rebels when they fought. Mm-hmm. And Obi-Wan kills him pretty quickly, and people are like, that's it, that's the big battle. And it's like, it's because Maul's still fighting Obi-Wan like he did in Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan has evolved. Like, Obi-Wan is at a peace. Obi-Wan was fighting with anger in Phantom Menace. Yeah, this was a serene, chill Obi-Wan who it's over for you.
No, people didn't realize, I think, how strong Obi-Wan was, just because he was the most calm and
he was older at the point, but he's like, and he also, even after all that, after Maul killed Obi-Wan's love, Obi-Wan just held him in his arms, and he's just this hateful thing. This hateful creature. Yeah.
Well, it's like, imagine Darth Maul had to look in the mirror and be like, okay, I look like this, so I need to make one decision.
I gotta go to the dark side. Figure it out
all the way.
All the way. I was built out this way, but he's a great villain. I think that it's funny because I think Ray Park did a great job with him overall, but I do think Sam, and it's not because Sam was in Schmodown or anything too. I think Sam embodied Darth Maul the best. I think that Sam, even though Ray Park has him, the body movement and all that stuff down, and even when they brought him back into Solo, there he is. But it was Sam's voice that they used for Solo, because Sam really took over and knows that Kenobi, like he knows him. He knows him really well. So, that's another character that I like to see come back. I don't know where you put him as. You put him as an anti-hero, but Star Killer, not canon, played by Sam Witwer in The Force Unleashed. That'd be an interesting character to appear. All right, who do we got? Hero.
Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma, good character for sure. She's got to be in Andor, right?
Yeah,
has to be.
Has to be. At least at the end, maybe.
More than just the end. She got to be given like missions and things. As far as I would assume, was it Genevieve? Is that I can't remember her name.
Yeah, I don't.
Genevieve Riley or something. I can't remember. That's why I don't compete in these things.
Yeah, because she's been one who's been around silently and in like the leadership meetings. Yeah. So if you don't really realize, if you don't look close enough, you might miss her as a character.
Runs the shop. She runs the shop, and she. It was in a deleted scene that I don't think should have been deleted in Revenge of the Sith, where they start to make the moves to create the rebellion. And then she's in Rogue One. She's in Return of the Jedi. She's in a lot of the novels. She steps back after the time of Return of the Jedi. She steps away from the lead, and that's why in Bloodline, Leia's like running for that position. But Mothma steps down. But there's a lot for her to do. She's a great character overall, and I would like to see her do more. This is why I keep saying the same thing, but like with television, like,
I know
there's just so much. There's so much. Like imagine these series where you could put in and you can give Akbar more to do. You can give Mothma more to do. You can give these characters more to do and involve them more. That I'm pretty pumped to. To see all this.
Me too.
Yeah.
I just think Star Wars really knows what it's doing with TV now.
Right now. All right, what do we got
more
for
than Marvel,
villain?
I would say. Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Kylo Ren, same. I mean, when it comes to overall arc is my issue. I think Duel of Fates handled it better.
Because he's a villain.
Yeah, he stays even when he turns at the very end. There's I believe
it's like a Vader turn.
I buy it more of why he turned at the very end of Duel of Fates more so than just because we need him to help Rey in Rise of Skywalker. Ben Solo is a tragic character, but it's a kind of arc that we've seen already. But it's because Adam Driver is such a great actor and he's so charismatic that you care about Kylo, and I understand why he's so popular with the fan base. And that trailer, when the first time you saw him, when he's in the woods and pops,
his like stance is so unique and like works because of him.
Yeah.
He just like does things that are so like usually like and like Jedi Sith, they're smooth, and he's like very
and he's powerful and imposing, very similar like Vader was. I mean, that's the funny thing is that Vader, Anakin. I mean, Hayden Christensen is significantly smaller than Adam Driver, but because of the additions to his body, became menacing in this big hulking figure, and also because David Prowse was like a 6'6" bodybuilder. But Adam Driver's a big dude, so it worked, and it was that imposing thing. To me, he shines the most in Force Awakens. That's the movie to me that he shines the most because it's the idea of you don't really know where he is. The second, and Mike and I are on Kalinowski and I are on the same page here. Once he kills Han Solo, he is not redeemable. I don't care what they do. It's just not redeemable.
To me, it's just like why I like Kylo Ren as a character, but why I'm not afraid of him is because I don't really understand. To me, it's not a good enough reason why he went to the dark side that hardcore. Yeah. Like with Darth Vader, it's like it was leading up. Obviously, we got the prequels to see what was going on in his mind, how Palpatine was putting in thoughts.
Yeah.
But with Kylo Ren, I'm like, you have Leia and Han as your parents.
Right.
You spoiled brat.
Yeah, they didn't give you enough reason why, even when they tried to do it in Last Jedi, because in the novel they talk about how Snoke has been manipulating him for years, and they kind of say he was kind of grooming him for years. But there wasn't enough of that. I would like to seen that.
Same.
Or maybe eventually you do. I don't know. But the character himself, Kylo Ren, he was the one that he stands out for sure. I love the idea that they did give him back the mask because I thought the mask was pretty intimidating. But it was more because he was kind of like a Darth Vader fanboy than anything else too. But it's also why in Duel of Fates, when he turns on his grandfather, where he's just like, you couldn't do it, I'm going to do it. And it just goes full dark side after that whole thing, because I wanted to see him because like when the thing that's set up in Last Jedi that is completely disregarded in Rise of Skywalker is Luke saying, "I'm gonna be with you if you do this," and he wasn't. You don't see him in Rise of Skywalker. He doesn't. Except the minus that scene with Rey, but in Duel of Fates, he's kind of like haunting him, and that's what everybody thought was going to happen, but.
And they could have done that and like had him pulling him towards Rey and giving him that reason there.
Yeah.
But.
All right, who we got now on a hero?
C-3PO.
Let's do them both.
Yeah,
C-3PO and R2-D2. Now, they obviously don't get the credit I think that they deserve. I know everybody talks about these iconic characters, and they are, but people don't understand in the same way that everybody talks about in Empire Strikes Back. If Yoda doesn't work, right? If that puppet, if you look at the puppet and you go, it's just a puppet. This is stupid. That movie's over. Mm-hmm. You don't love that movie. But because you believe it's a little green alien because Frank Oz brought him to life, it works. Same thing with the droids. In that beginning movie, you follow those droids for like 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. In the first time you've ever seen anything in Star Wars, ever, you are following droids and not people. That is very, very ballsy. And one of the reasons the studio, wait, but what humans with them? It's not humans, it's just these two robots walking around in this desert.
Yeah.
For like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Until they get adopted by the family, and then we'll start to see the humans then. How anybody made that movie and how George was able to do it is mind-boggling.
I know. Yeah. And like the voice of C-3PO, it's
Anthony
just like
Daniels, man,
he's awesome.
Yeah, and he was in the costume the whole time.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's such an achievement, but it makes sense because that's why you believe it.
Yeah, like, and it's sticking Kenny Baker move, Kenny Baker. They put in like now everything's remote control with it, but they had Kenny Baker in rest in peace. They put him in the actual thing in the desert, and probably both of them just how many times. How many times did they pass out throughout a butt? C-3PO and R2-D2 are like the Abbott and Costello, right? And they have this, and where they're dynamic. The comedy that they shared in all three of the original movies just worked. In the prequels, they're very similar. C-3PO starts to get in the same category as Jar Jar for me in those prequels of his purpose of what he's there to do. He's there to make people laugh or kids laugh, because the whole thing when he's bumping around and he's got a different head or a different body and he's shooting at the good guys because he's on a bad droid's body. Like, all that was comedic kid stuff, but and then they're pretty much just thrown to the side in the new trilogy. Yeah, that's all about the new droids.
Yeah, I know. Which I did like the new droids, but R2-D2 I just love watching how wrecked he gets and like still makes it out every time.
Yeah, he does.
Like,
he gets
R2-D2 because he doesn't talk. The humor with him is funny. Like when he like lights them all on fire in the second, I think it was episode 2.
Okay,
it
Which
was
one?
when they're when Anakin and Obi-Wan are like,
and he also has an attitude. He's always pissed off.
Yeah,
I love it.
And he loves rides for Leia. Yeah, they're really. I don't know why the characters work, and they do.
They really do. All right, who's our villain? We have
Darth Vader.
Okay, well, I mean, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Vader is such a complex character and such an amazing character overall. One of the most iconic villains of all time, and probably the most Shakespearean villain that we have in Star Wars, because of the second he shows up, because once again, you don't get the right costume. And did you ever watch the real footage of hearing David Prowse talk as Vader?
No, I really want to.
I need the plans. He's got this but it's like comical.
Spaceballs.
It's comical. It's really and he's so imposing. It's just like, you're part of the Rebel Alliance. It's like, oh my gosh! But then you bring in, you're part of a Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away. And it's like, okay, James.
Yeah.
You did
Why
it.
is that so good?
You did it. And it's the voice. It's everything. There are some things that are just perfect by luck sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's everything Vader was when he came in. Like, just everything just worked. And from the cape and the helmet and the idea. And I remember that I can't remember, people have corrected me on it, but I'm pretty sure it was in the 77, when the novel came out. They first mentioned the Obi-Wan battle on the volcanic planet and how Vader burnt up. I think it might have been Empire, but I'm pretty sure it was the first one when the novelization came out after the movie. But the backstory behind it was always there, the idea, and when you first hear about when Obi-Wan is saying, a young Jedi named Darth Vader. It's also why it showed you like the Sith mythology develops later on.
Yeah.
Because it's like you wouldn't say there was a Jedi named Darth.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Jedi.
He's not a Jedi.
Sith.
Yeah.
But there was a young Jedi named Darth Vader who was a pupil of mine before he turned to evil. And he talked about like that whole setup right there. And I wonder, because there's a great line when Luke says to Obi-Wan, what happened to my father? Or how my father died. Mm-hmm. Alec Guinness does this thing with his eyes, and he goes and goes into it. I wonder if they rewatch it and they go, it kind of looks like he's lying to him here. Doesn't want to tell him the truth.
Oh.
So maybe we can come up with something here. Like I every time you see it, because they didn't really know what it was, and that was fine.
Yeah,
that was fine. It's so different because people, well, that's what they do with the new trilogy. Yeah, but it wasn't Star Wars back then. It was one big movie that they were trying to say, like, let's see if this works. They didn't know.
No,
and the film business was very different back then.
Yeah, they didn't have like all of a sudden just planning for trilogies.
No, and thank God, and they let Vader live because of Tarkin. They killed Tarkin off and they let Vader live, and that then opened us up to be able to develop Vader more. And Vader comes back, and he just has Vader's career performances in Empire Strikes Back. Everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
all too easy. Like, you see like the pure villainous nature of Vader, because he turns back to Anakin in the third. But then he has a great scene in Rogue One. Every time he shows up, he's just and they've done a good job of not overusing him, right? And I know that's the fear with the Obi-Wan series, but they've done a good job in the newer stuff. Like Rogue One, I think he was used perfect.
Yeah.
This one scene, even though silly, don't choke in your aspirations.
I love that scene. I do.
I know you do, but I don't mind the scene. I just don't like the line. And then
he's sassy.
I know. It just seemed like he was just waiting for a laugh track to come in at that point. But either way, he is. But at the end, at the Rebels, he's devastating.
Yeah,
he's devastated. His battles with Ahsoka, like every way that they used him in Rebels, I thought was done very well. And then Clone Wars, he's not in it as much as Anakin. I guess you can kind of combine the two with what Anakin does, and Anakin to me shines in Clone Wars. That's
the best Anakin
easily, and that's when they say he was a good friend. He was a great pilot. All of the stuff that Obi-Wan tells Luke about Anakin, you see in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I know this list is ranked on power, so it makes sense why he's not number one. But he's, to me, the greatest villain of all time because he's the most heartbreaking villain of all time. Yeah, he's
troubled too. Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah,
he had it all, and the best thing about Star Wars to me is the teachings, obviously, and like the fear, and that number one, he's like complete showing of how like fear can ruin your entire existence.
Yeah.
And he's so powerful. He's just sick.
Super powerful. And that's why I feel like we're going to see a version of Vader that we haven't seen yet in the Obi-Wan series, because he is, from what we read in the novels and in the comics, like even Lords of the Sith, he's battling being Vader and trying to still, like, there's that little piece of Anakin that's still trying to get out there, and he in the comics he still has dreams about, well, no, I shouldn't be doing this. I got to go back and apologize to Obi-Wan and get my crap back together. But the dark side just takes over, and he's like, no, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
And I wonder, it's 8 years after Revenge of the Sith, he's probably starting to go cuckoo at this point, and Obi-Wan thinks, nah, I can get him back. And then he realizes, no, I can't. So I'm very curious to see that. Like, I hope that he has a lot to do in this one.
I know. I hope also that they have, like, Hayden Christensen being directed by Deborah Chow, and he has, like, redemption of the face of Anakin.
I think so. I think they would be missing out on an opportunity if they don't do a flashback scene with the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that just, like, gives their relationship more depth and devastation.
Yeah, because you can... If you wanted to deep fake or de-age them by like 10 years, I mean,
easy.
It's not going to be tough
to
do.
They both look really good.
Right now. And it's like Hayden Christensen is, what, 42, 43, something like that. They can make him look 25, 30. Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah.
Or, younger, whatever the hell. So combined together, we just did villain and hero in the same one. But who's next on the hero side?
Poe Dameron.
All right, Poe Dameron, character that was supposed to die right away, but because of the talents of Oscar Isaac, was able to do more. I actually think where Poe shines the most is not in any of the movies. I think it's actually in the comic book. Is where he has the most to do in his series of Poe, because it's another character that was set up. I really liked how they set Poe up in the first one.
Yeah.
He was loyal. He was a daredevil, but he was loyal, and he wanted to do these things for Leia. He was there to do the mission. He was her trusted soldier. And by the second one, he's not that.
He's
anymore.
Not trusted.
No, he can't trust him to do anything. He's a renegade. He blows things up. He's really annoying.
Complaining.
He's a buffoon.
Yeah.
Because he does everything that he does is wrong. And he's like, oh, that's why? oh.
Yeah.
That's like his whole thing in that movie is, oh, I should have waited.
Yes.
And then in the last one, they're trying to make him Han Solo. And then they tease the thing with Rey, but they never really deliver on it. Duel of Fates, they do. They connect more of it, but and it's not and it's again it's the overall problem that I think all of those characters have. I think Rey is the only one who got like
consistency. Yeah, where you're okay with how her arc went.
Yeah,
but
for the most part.
Lower on the list though of the heroes is Admiral Holdo, and I say this because Poe's character just helped enhance her character, which I didn't really even need her character.
Yeah.
Laura Dern's character. Like I ended up liking her because Poe was an idiot.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, your sacrifice was dope.
Yeah, it was. And he's like, oh, okay, now I like her. Yeah. She killed herself. Like, oh, okay. Thanks, Poe. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, so it's yet again, same argument, same thing. I think you get a talent like Oscar Isaac to come back and do some more stuff as Poe in a kind of rebellion, because what they're trying to do with him in the third one, he's about to give up again. He's like, I thought everybody was going to follow us, and they didn't. Oh, they're back. Thank you, Lando. And then, hey, Finn, can you yell? Yeah, I can do it. Lando, you did it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Moving on.
Finally, most powerful villain, Darth Sidious.
Yeah, Sidious and the Emperor,
yeah,
Palpatine, and one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars because of his plan. Like he had what a lot of the movies don't have, and there's a plan. Mm-hmm. And the way that he set things up, and the way he's been working on it, and the idea of working with Plagueis for so long to get out of the shadows and be able to move and do these things. And he eventually does it and puts it into fruition, and it all works out. This is a overall great character. I think that he was absolutely. I had said a while ago when I was doing Jedi Council that it made sense to me if they were going to bring Palpatine back for the third movie. It made sense if they did it the right way.
Yeah.
If they connected to Darth Plagueis and they said they found out, and we're going to find out how. He cheated death because he knew that he could do it, and he finally figured out a way to do it, like Voldemort.
Yeah,
that's why I always thought he was going to come back like Voldemort, the way they do it. Instead, it's Darth cloning Sith magic, and it's like
tanks.
But it also disregarded everything that happened in the original trilogy.
Yeah,
of the mission of Anakin and all that. It just. And to be honest with you, the way that they brought him back, and I'm sorry I keep referencing Duel of Fates, I've fallen in love with that overall story of what they could have done. Like he's not even really in it; he's just a hologram.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna bring back Ian McDiarmid to do it again, like I'd like to see him in, like if he came back in Andor, I hope he pops back up as the Emperor again in another series, like to see like what Obi-Wan, right? Like how great is it going to be? Because no one's talked about this at all. They all know Hayden's coming back. But what if there's a scene with the Emperor and Vader and Obi-Wan? You'll lose your mind.
Yeah.
It's going to be
great.
It's
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I didn't even think about that because you're really focusing on Darth Vader, right. Maybe the Inquisitor and Obi-Wan, but that would be sick.
Because Obi-Wan, I mean, the Emperor is in he's in Rebels a few times, and he's talking about things that he needs to do and sending out missions to Vader, and so even if it's a hologram of just saying, Lord Vader, what reports do you have of Obi-Wan Kenobi? and he's like, okay, great, there he is. Like that's all I need.
Like a Luke Skywalker cameo type thing.
Yeah, but that's all I need. I just need him to pop in there to say a couple things. But he was always based off of the dictators of the past, whether it is a Hitler or Mussolini, whatever it is. That's
he's also like a pimp though, like the way that he gets these people to follow him, and it's a massive manipulator. Like I mean that in like the true definition of that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of stuff that was done. I mean, there are things that he does that are a bit goofy, and things that happen in the prequel, like when he's like that. That's
oh my god! Again,
that's
that
one
scene. Kills. Why is he sticking out his tongue?
That's what's like Michael Jordan when
like
he does
some
his
of
thing.
his.
Yeah, like the moves that he makes, like that's
very leprechaun
hilarious. Yeah. But the stupidest scene that I wish that they just play him, they make him look so stupid, is when Yoda throws him over the chair and the thing goes over his head and he falls over the chair. It's such a stupid scene. It's like they might as well
him in battle really decomposed.
Yeah, it wasn't as great. But there's a lot that he does well that I hope that they are able to bring him back while he's still alive. I don't need to see, and I think Mandalorian might explain it a little bit more.
I hope
stuff
they
that they do, and I seeing him in holocron form is something I still want to see. But all right, a few other before we go out, we'll probably have to close out with the big three, right?
Yeah.
So Han Solo I'm assuming is next. Or Leia.
I'll read you. They have Neenum, BB-8.
Let's go over some of the hardcore ones.
Chewbacca, Rey.
Chewie. We'll do Chewie. We'll do Chewie and Rey for sure. Chewie has really evolved from the first time you see him as just a big dog, and then the idea of what he's able to do. And my favorite scene with Chewie ever is actually in Force Awakens. After Han dies, the pure rage that comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And he blasts his son. He knows it's his son. He blasts his son. He shoots his son.
Yeah, he was full gangster
He starts shooting everything and blowing everything up. And that rage that he's got, Chewie has that. And I think that both Jonas and obviously the great Peter, oh my God, Peter Mayhew. Peter Mayhew.
Who played him?
Played him brilliantly. And I didn't mind the origin of how they met in Solo. I think there were some things that.
Oh, I liked it. That was my favorite. That was one of the only parts I actually enjoyed.
How they played it. But Chewie's a great character, and I still always wanted to see him on Kashyyyk. Didn't love that they used him in Revenge of the Sith. I think that there are times I'm always against the idea of putting character. When people say when you put characters in, it makes the galaxy small. No, when you put them in a certain way, it makes the galaxy small. I always use the argument of putting Luke into Mandalorian. That makes all the sense in the world because of the way that you set up the story.
Yeah.
That makes all the sense. But putting Chewbacca in Kashyyyk when there's tons of other Wookiees, why is he working with Yoda?
He didn't need
that
to
was
be.
a fan service thing to get people to apply. There was no reason to have Chewie in at that point.
Yeah, I do love the way that I think Star Wars in general has treated Chewie. From the beginning, he really was Leia even was mean to him, called him a carpet.
Yeah,
and it's you have to realize that different species are still equal to you.
Right, yeah.
And Chewie is that. Chewie's so cool and then gained respect as he should.
Yes. And so you can't really talk about Chewie without talking about Han. And the first time you meet Chewie is with Han at the cantina, and Han was modeled after the old gunslingers in the westerns, and he was an outlaw. He wasn't a good guy, and that's why he did shoot Greedo first, is blast his ass right off the thing.
Yeah.
And he had to, and the evolution of Han Solo became
he's a cowboy.
Yeah, he was a cowboy. So Han Solo and the wit, that's when it comes to the big three, I don't even know how much we're going to really talk about them, to be honest, because anytime you talk about Star Wars,
we talk about that.
Everybody's talked about them.
Yeah.
Luke, Leia, and Han. That's what
Star
you knew
Wars.
about Star Wars. They were the ones. They were your entryway, the gateway to get to Star Wars, to learn the characters, the different evolution of each character, the layers of each one of these characters, and to see. Whether or not it's more of a question of, we know that Luke we're going to see again as a 8-year-old child in Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
Han, if we see him in a Crimson Dawn series or anything, whether it's Alden Ehrenreich or a deep fake of Han Solo or of Harrison Ford, who knows? I think that if you're going to say who you most likely are going to see, Luke, Leia for Obi-Wan probably also. Leia will probably show up as an 8-year-old girl as well. And then Han is very unlikely.
Yeah, and I know people are still pressing for a Solo too. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think perhaps a series could happen. But even then, the character is actually, in my opinion, maybe the most fleshed out character that we have. And that's in part due to Harrison Ford. I think that when I was younger, I didn't like Han Solo. He annoyed me. And I was like, oh my God, I hate how he said, I know you do.
Yeah.
But I know. And then now I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I love this.
Right,
you totally own this character.
Yeah. And I think that as it gets old, as it gets on with the character, whether it's Alden or whoever it might be, as far as bringing him back for a sequel, no thank you.
No.
A series, no thank you. Unless they brought him back for, I know they had mentioned Lando, but they haven't mentioned it since that announcement. There's been no mention of Lando, whether or not they're doing a series or not. But if you're going to do a Lando series and then he made cameo in it or did an episode with him, sure. Crimson Dawn, same thing. But the question is, do they get Alden back or do they try to go with a deepfake version? Most likely they'd probably get Alden back, and I think that, I don't know. I don't know how that would play, but I don't think that happens.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens.
Yeah, the reception was just not good enough.
They stay away from it. I think there's a pocket of people like John Hoey was a great dude. I like John a lot, but I saw him at Spectacular Weekend. I go, just don't bring up, make Solo 2 happen. So one thing, I love the positivity of it too, but it's just like, no, we don't need that movie.
We don't.
It's a reason why it didn't do very well.
Yeah.
And it's not just, well, the reason it didn't do well is because it came out early, true. The reason it didn't come out is it was the marketing behind it. True. The reason it also didn't come out is nobody needed a Han Solo movie.
Yeah, it's You have to remember it's Star Wars. So like, even if it didn't come out at the best month, even if it didn't get the best promo, you're still getting better promo than any other property.
If you put Obi-Wan out at that time, it does better.
Yes.
It does better. It still doesn't do as well as it would have done in December.
No, it's still Star Wars, and it depends on the story.
It was, because the thing that people don't realize, and it's just too much for someone to carry, like trying to like take over for Harrison Ford. Well, the people took over for Sean Connery. Different time, very different world. Anyway, all right, I gotta go. I just realized that
we did
some stuff. We did it 3 times. So. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your holiday break. Remember, we have so much on this channel already right now. Whether it's the spoiler reviews for Spider-Man, we got a spoiler review, or at least a mini one for Matrix. There's going to be a full-on spoiler discussion for Matrix coming up, but we are going to start doing the Boba Fett ones really soon. I'll be doing it next week. Mike and Steph will be back the following week in 2022. Crazy. But that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. Enjoy, stay safe, and we shall see you on the flip side. You're going to see a graphic that I didn't want you to see, but here, we'll do this instead. Here we go. Check this out.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.